So you would like to know the Roman rules for making mosaics? Well, you're in the right place. I'm Helen Miles, and I'm here to teach you all the tips and tricks you need to make mosaics. When you look at ancient mosaics, you're probably not aware that certain rules or principles of making are being applied in the construction of them, even in work which seems very disparate or different from each other. One of the basic principles is to avoid grids. So when you're making a mosaic, you're not just thinking about the pieces, the tesserae that you're laying, but also the gaps, the interstices between the pieces. One of your aims when you're creating mosaics is to aim for a visually harmonious effect, and straight lines, which occur when you lay your tesserae in grids, and crosses, which also occur, are visually distracting, so you try and avoid them as much as possible. The way to do this is to offset your tesserae, like laying a brick wall. You can see it beautifully in the body of the fish here. When you offset your tesserae, you get rid of the vertical lines, but you still have horizontal ones. So you need to give your tesserae a little tilt to make sure that they break into the horizontal lines. You can see here in this beautifully laid piece that there are no straight lines, either horizontal or vertical. Another principle is to keep the size of your tesserae fairly consistent. If you have a larger one amongst smaller ones, it will attract the eye, which, again, you want to avoid. So if we look at these Roman examples, you can see that the size of the tesserae is more or less consistent. Always remember that these rules are general principles rather than hard and fast rules. You can see here in this little example that smaller pieces are put in to indicate fine jewellery. And you'll often see smaller pieces in faces, especially around the eyes and other parts of the face too, where they're needed in order to create a sense of facial expression. As well as being consistent in the size of your tesserae, you also need to aim to be consistent in the spacing of the tesserae so that the gaps between them are fairly regular. This again is to avoid visual distraction. These mosaics illustrate the point. If you look at them, you'll see that the gaps are all pretty regular throughout. Another principle is the use of keystones to create curves. I've done a separate video about this, so I won't go into any particular detail here. But the idea of a keystone is basically it's a square with two diagonals cut opposite each other, as you can see in this illustration. And I wanted to show you this lovely example from a Roman floor. If you look at the circles in the braid pattern, they've got lovely, really perfectly cut keystones to create very tight curves. I've also dealt with the subject of triangles in a separate video. The basic point about triangles, however, is that they are like little arrows. So unless you want to direct the eye in a particular way, then you need to think about using them and only use them when you need them and want them for a particular purpose. If you look at the tips of the leaves in this mosaic, you can see that they are triangles, but of course tips of leaves are pointy, so of course they're relevant and necessary in that particular example. In this example, you can see triangles in the background around the dog's head, but it's interesting to note that the triangles are pushed away from the design itself into the background, so they're less distracting. These yellow circles and the arrows show where the triangles occur. Bear in mind that triangles are not always necessary for particular design features in a mosaic. So if you look at this very simple design of petals, you can see that squares rather than triangles are used to finish off the ends of the leaves. The principle of line splitting, or sdoppiamento, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is absolutely key to creating visual harmony in classical style mosaics. So the line split is used when an area is expanding or getting narrower. So in this illustration, you can see where I've circled where the split has occurred. So the line is going from one piece to two pieces, and the arrows indicate the direction where the split is happening. Even in a mosaic like this, which looks very rough, it's just an area of a floor, the principle of line splitting is still applied. So here I've drawn on the same photograph of the mosaic to show where the line split is occurring. One piece is splitting into two and the line is expanding. Finally, I want you to look at the principle of the outline. So if you look at this head of the horse, you can see that a row of tesserae runs around the outline of the head in the background colour. This is often used in Roman mosaics. You can see the outline very clearly here again around the head of the bull. The principle of the outline is simply a way of giving the main feature of the mosaic, the main design feature or features, more prominence so they stand out slightly against the background. There you have it, the Roman rules for making mosaics. As it happens, I have a pre-recorded class on my website which takes you through all of these rules using practical examples. So we work together on making a bird. So if that's of interest, then head over to my website, which I'll link in the description below, and you can find out more about it. Meanwhile, if you like this video and you'd like to see more, then please subscribe below.